Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're jumping into a real high-stakes legal chess match from Idaho. It's a case that pits a self-represented homeowner against a massive corporate legal machine. It sounds like a paradox, right? But believe it or not, it's at the very heart of a powerful and, frankly, pretty controversial legal tactic. To understand how this can even happen, we've got to look at the strategy behind it all. So the idea here is to basically change the facts on the ground so fast that the court case can't keep up. The argument becomes, hey, why are we even debating who should have the house when we already do? It's a procedural checkmate, and it's got some serious consequences. All right, first up, let's look at the corporation's attack. We're going to see how they timed their moves to try and end this whole thing before it even really got off the ground. Okay, so check out this timing. It's really calculated. February 14th, the court greenlights the order for possession. A month goes by, and the homeowner is physically removed from the property. And then, bam, just 1 week later, the motion to dismiss the appeal hits the court. This is a classic dispossess-and-dismiss play, perfectly executed to create a new reality that could make the entire legal appeal, well, meaningless. You know, their argument was brutally simple. We have the house, so what's left to talk about? The case is over. It's a clear attempt to shrink this whole huge dispute down to one single issue: who's physically in the house, and then just declare victory. Now, to back this up, they had to pull out a non-binding ruling from a lower court. And, for anyone who follows the law, that's a bit of a tell. It's a subtle red flag. It kind of suggests that there wasn't any solid Supreme Court precedent on their side, hinting that maybe, just maybe, this area of the law is a lot shakier than they're letting on.
But the homeowner wasn't having any of it. He wasn't just going to roll over. And his response? Well, it was anything but simple. Let's break down his counteroffensive.
So the homeowner's first big move was to totally reframe the entire case. He says, look, this isn't just about possession of some building. It's about the $305,000 of my life savings that I've poured into this home. That one number, you guys, it changes everything. Because even if he loses the house, that money, it's still very, very much in dispute.
Instead of just one response, the homeowner, Jeremy Bass, comes back with a flurry of 5 separate, incredibly well-researched documents. I mean, this wasn't just a defense. It was a full-on legal counter-assault. Each filing came at the corporation's motion from a totally different angle, basically building this fortress and giving the Supreme Court multiple ways to say, yes, this appeal is still alive. And he did this by using 3 well-known exceptions to this mootness rule, the case is over idea. He argued that even if possession was technically settled, the case still mattered because of 1, the ongoing financial loss, that big chunk of equity. 2, the very real risk that this tactic could just be used over and over again to unfairly block appeals. And 3, the huge public interest in making sure our justice system is actually fair for everyone. Now, this was a brilliant move. He didn't just argue against dismissing his appeal, he went further. He challenged the legality of the dispossession itself. He basically said, hey, the lower court had no authority, no jurisdiction to order my removal while the Supreme Court was still looking at my case. That's a huge claim. And then he brings up something called the Munsing-Ware doctrine. He's basically telling the court, you can't just knock over the chessboard and then declare yourself the winner. This doctrine argues against letting someone benefit from their own procedural gamesmanship, which is exactly what Bass was claiming was happening right here. Okay, and in what might be his most creative argument, Bass digs up this statement from an earlier hearing. He presents it as a binding admission right from the opposing counsel's mouth that there were still disputed facts in the case. Now, why does that matter so much? Because the whole reason the initial case ended was through summary judgment, which is only supposed to happen when there are no disputed facts left to argue about. It's a real gotcha moment. So, okay, let's put these 2 strategies side by side. When you do, the difference is, well, it's stark, and it tells you everything you need to know about this battle. And this comparison right here just brilliantly shows the gap in procedural sophistication. I mean, look at it. On one side, you have a standard 6-page motion. On the other, a massive 40-plus page response citing more than 50 Supreme Court decisions. One side is all about efficiency, and the other is pure survival. The difference is just staggering. Yeah, and this asymmetry, this imbalance in investment, really helps explain why their approaches were so different. For the corporation,
Look, this is just another Tuesday. It's business as usual, one file among hundreds. But for the homeowner, this is his life. It's everything. And that massive difference in stakes is what fuels that extraordinary level of personal investment and research. You know, this wasn't just a legal fight. It was really a battle over the story of the case itself. The corporation tried to frame it as this simple, technical dispute over a building, nothing more. But the homeowner? He framed it as this huge, multi-dimensional fight for his property, his equity, and his fundamental rights. And whoever wins that narrative battle often has a much better shot at winning the legal one. So, this one single case, all the way from Lewiston, Idaho, it really forces us to step back and ask some much bigger questions about our justice system and, what access to it really truly means. And what's really fascinating here is what wasn't fully argued. The appeal itself was all about procedure, but bubbling right under the surface were these bombshell constitutional questions. Could this dispossess-and-dismiss strategy actually violate the 14th Amendment? Is it just fundamentally unfair for someone to lose hundreds of thousands of dollars in home equity this way? I mean, these are the huge unexplored issues that could totally reshape the entire landscape of foreclosure law. Yeah, and as one legal expert put it, the outcome here is going to send a signal. It's going to tell us whether the right to appeal a foreclosure is a real, meaningful protection or if it's just an illusion, a promise on paper for most homeowners who can't possibly afford a massive bond to stop the whole process in its tracks. And that really brings us to the ultimate implication. A ruling that gives a green light to the dispossess and dismiss strategy could create a very clear divide in our justice system, one where your ability to fully fight for your rights depends directly on how much money you have in the bank. So, the Idaho Supreme Court's final decision in this case, it's not just going to decide the fate of one house. No, it's going to set a precedent for years and years to come, and it's going to impact countless other people. And it leaves all of us with a really critical question we need to think about. A question about the very nature of our justice system. Is the right to an appeal a universal right for everyone, or is it, in reality, a financial privilege?